welcome back to VOP this morning. A Lagos High Court at Tafawa Balewa Square last week refused to grant bail to Frederick Nwajagu, the self-acclaimed Eze of Ajao estate in the state. Nwajagu is standing trial on a 9-count charge of attempting to commit terrorism, financing terrorism, participating in terrorism, and meeting to support a prescribed entity. Nwajagu was arrested by the police after a video where he made an inciting statement surfaced online. In the clip, Nwajagu said Igbo indigents in Lagos must recruit members of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, to defend their property from looters. Now, the Igbo chief pleaded not guilty to the charges filed against him by the state government. On July 25, he applied for bail on medical grounds through EC Obiagu, his counsel. Obiagu had told the court that the defendant is a widower with 6 children. Therefore, he would not jump bail. But Jonathan Ogunsoya, prosecution counsel, asked the court to refuse the bail application. Well, joining us in the studio right here on VOP TV to make sense of this, we have Barrister Eze Eluchie, and also joining us virtually, we have Dr. Ambrose Igbokwe, who is the chairman, Enugu State Chapter of the Guild of Public Affairs Analysts of Nigeria. Really? Well, he'll be joining us much later in the course of the program. We do have Barrister Eze with us in the studio. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me in your studios.
Now, what do you think about the court's decision to refuse bail, and is it justified?
Well, the reality is that granting of bail or admitting defendants to bail is at the total discretion of the court. So it is within the court's powers to decide whether to grant bail or not to grant bail. And in doing that, the court will look at several factors. So it's not just a matter of saying is he justified or not justified, because the courts, the judge in that case, has an idea of what's transpired, which you and I, who are speaking from outside, will not be aware of. But it's not as if that discretion is totally at his beck and call. There are parameters. There are legal requirements that must be met, and that also there are practical requirements which the judge himself will decide upon. And one of those parameters is the gravity of the offense, the likelihood of the defendant to jump bail or to not show up in court for his trials, and then if the defendant has a history of jumping bail. I mean, if you have a history of jumping bail, no matter how little the offense is, you may not be granted bail subsequently. But in this instance, where we have seen the severity of the charges which the defendant is lampooned on with, it is the judge will have gone through the proof of evidence, that is the facts presented before the court by the prosecution to make that decision. So we cannot just from here say what the judge did was good or not good, but it all depends on the facts of the case.
All right, Barrister, some persons will say it was quite an unfortunate development considering the fact that he stayed at home and made a statement that he made currently because of what transpired during the February 25 elections. We've seen a couple of other individuals who have possibly acted like him. In fact, with action, persons like Asari Dokubo make hostile statements against the government, and nothing has actually transpired. He has not been prosecuted, neither sued to court. So what exactly does this represent concerning what is supposed to be considered important and what is not?
Good. Now, in my initial response was the objectivity of the matter, but now law has to also be relative. Now, in this instance, the scale of justice, you always wonder what does the court do with others who are charged with similar offenses? Does the court grant them, admit them to bail or not? I mentioned the case of the former majority leader of the House of Reps, Alhaji Hassan Doguwa, who is being prosecuted for murder during the political campaigns, and he was granted bail by the court. And you have mentioned also Asari Dokubo, who's brandishing guns, threatening genocide, and doing all sorts, and he's still walking around. Nobody has even bothered to present him to any court for any case. Also, what you have mentioned is the case of MC Oluomo, who during the campaigns actually threatened some segments of the population not to even dare to come to vote. And ironically, what the police, PPRO, the public relations officer of the police, did was that he said it was a joke to have threatened genocide. So it is when you now begin to balance what this so-called Eze Ndigbo did and what other political actors have done and the response of the law to their cases, that you begin to now wonder what is going on. Is the scale of justice not balanced? Is the justicia, who is supposed to be blindfolded and then give justice without looking at any issues? Is he really blind, or in Nigeria does justicia have an one eye open, with which she looks at persons to know where they're coming from, what issues they are pursuing before according justice? Now, that is not to say that the judge in this instance is aware of all these other instances, but the reality is that when you look at the circumstances from the outsider, anybody who's looking at the outside will conclude that justice in Nigeria is not fair, it's not administered equally, and based on where you're coming from, the justice that will be meted out to you may differ. And that is most unfortunate, because in any country that is claims to be ruled, that to be governed under the rule of law, such inconsistencies has no place.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we have joining us virtually now Dr. Ambrose Igboke. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Dr. Ambrose, can you hear us?
Well, we do
Okay.
understand that we have a bit of a problem with your video, so we're staying with your audio, but we'd like for you to speak up a bit so we can hear you clearly, because at the moment, we can't hear you clearly.
Okay, I think while that is being sorted out, Barrister Eze, Justice Adesanya has said, I need to read out her quote. She said, I would like you to expatiate what severity, what do you call it, severity of the punishment, what seriousness of the offense is the judge referring to?
Well, like I keep on saying, it depends on what has been brought before the judge. But what most Nigerians saw who watched the video, because I myself saw that video, it was a man who in his bedroom, in his room or his sitting room, wherever, made pronouncements at a period when there was already pronouncement by some elements that they will attack the Igbos. So he now, in his own private residence, pronounced that he will invite
To protect properties
IPOB to
of Igbos.
protect properties of Igbos. Now, if that is what he's being charged for, like I don't know what other things he might have committed.
He's being charged for financing terrorism, participating in terrorism, committing acts of terrorism, and meeting to support a proscribed entity.
Beautiful. If what he did, which was shown on air, is the root cause of all these charges, it may be concluded that somebody in the prosecution team of the DSS was trying to be very dramatic and extraneous, because it was clearly moving, imagining things and bringing it in, unless, like I keep on saying, that there were other things that this man committed. But if it is based on what Nigerians saw, and all these wonderful horrific things have been
you don't
lumped
think
in.
that the statement he made was enough threat to the Nigerian entity?
Well, the preservation of property itself is a constitutional right. I mean, if you say you want to preserve, in fact, it's one of those things, one of those instances when you can legitimately kill and be absolved, when you are protecting or defending your property from those who are trying to come to destroy you or destroy your property. It is one of those aspects, one of those instances where you can legitimately kill somebody who has tried to attack you. So if a man says, I will invite IPOB, or I will invite Boko Haram as a means of scaring off others who may want to come and attack him, but he's only a word of mouth, he's not done any other thing in advance of that, you will begin to wonder what offense was really committed. Because yes, there was the utterance, statements made. You now ask, does he have the capacity to even make that statement? What was his mental condition? How was he when he made those statements? let it not be felt that what the prosecution is trying to do is even to criminalize the mention of the word IPOB.
Because it's beginning to look like, because IPOB is a proscribed entity.
Beautiful.
Could that be why?
Yes, but then not just IPOB, and it's ironical that only IPOB is proscribed. I doubt even if ISIL or Boko Haram is proscribed in Nigeria.
I think Boko Haram has been
prescribed recently, but ISIL is not proscribed. So if he had said, I will invite ISIL, and I'm talking of ISIL is the Islamic State, the jihad.
Okay, ISWAP.
No, there's ISIL, which is the main one, then there are ISWAP and other ones are subgroups. Yes. So if somebody says, I will invite ISWAP or Akim, Akim is the Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. If you say you will invite them to come and protect you, since it's not proscribed in Nigeria, that means you don't have an offense. So even the prosecutors have to be realistic. Because in this instance, when you now project it and say, okay, people begin to perceive that this man is being prosecuted not for what he committed, per se, but for who he is, where he is from, and the group he mentioned. If people begin to perceive that, then it will only deepen the conception, or whether misconception or conception amongst Nigerians, that the DSS and the law enforcement agencies are taking a biased, parochial stance on national security. But mind you, the issue of national security is very critical. So if in their investigations, something else happened this man was at fault of something else, and they bring the charges, is justified. But if it's based only on what we saw, and they are getting imaginative and bringing all those things, it even means that for mentioning IPOB on this program, they can bring a charge against me. And that would be very ridiculous. So the prosecutors have to be extremely careful with how they exercise their powers. And like I keep on saying, what has happened is they've brought some facts before a judge, a judicial officer. So the person at fault in this instance is not a judge, because you don't know what they brought before the judge.
All right. But Barrister Eze, do you think that some persons may liken bias in the case? What I'm asking is that he's asking for bail. He says that he's not well and he needs to visit the hospital. Secondly, he said he's not a flight risk, that he has his kids here and they have to be taken care of. That bail is being denied. However, the judge said he should be taken to the Correctional Facility Medical Center. Now, we don't know how well equipped that center is. Would you liken the scenario with Nnamdi Kanu, that on several occasions he has actually asked to be bailed out on health reasons and he has been denied? He just recently was given access to meet one of the correctional facilities here or something doctor. So would you liken a sense of bias playing out in this scenario?
Well, I don't. I keep on hoping that does not apply to our courts. Okay. Because the moment we begin to maybe conclude that our courts are biased against certain people from who they are, then it's over. We can say it's finished. So let us, for now, continue to repose confidence in the judicial sector, or in our judges, because that is about the only hope we have. And then this is not the end of the case for this man who has been denied bail. If your bail has been denied and you feel you have genuine cause, his lawyers know what next to do. They can appeal that decision. The judge in this instance is the court of first instance. Okay. It's not the final judge. They can always appeal. Then the court of appeal may, looking at the circumstances, decide to grant him bail on conditions. So bail is not the end of it. And then, yes, if the judge says the correctional services will accord him access to medical facilities, then for now, he can, let us presume he can be taken care of. But if his lawyers feel aggrieved, or if they feel that the justice was not dispensed, they can easily appeal the decision of the court of first instance.
All right then. So once again, I think we can connect to Dr. Ambrose Igboke. Dr. Ambrose, good morning to you. Well, we're just informed that you've joined us virtually. I hope he's still in with us. Dr. Ambrose?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Okay, now there's a problem now. We can hear you faintly, and it's absolutely to no fault of yours.
I think
we'll probably have some adjustment done in here so we can pick your words clearly. While we are at it, while we're trying to fix the audio quality so we can hear you clearly, I would like to know your position in the case against Chief Frederick Nwajagu, who was denied bail. Let's get your position on it, and then we'll proceed from there. But in the meantime, I think our technicians will go into fixing the audio quality. Go ahead,
Cause
please.
analysis. A root cause analysis is when you try to dig out what was the root cause that triggered a chain of events. Now, why did that man make that statement? It is said that the primary responsibility of government is the welfare and security of the citizens. Therefore, when the government seems to be failing in that primary responsibility, the citizens sometimes defer to self-help. And in many cases in Nigeria, a lot of self-help have been, have been, agendaed because of lack of security for the citizens. The ratio of police to Nigerian citizens, to ratio of population is so low. So when you go to communities and neighborhoods, you start seeing gated streets, you start seeing private security, you start seeing neighborhood watch. Even some communities even employ the services of OPC and some other things. In a plan where security is really working, you don't see this kind of things. Therefore, the man in exasperation had to statement. Because firstly, just like the learned fellow there has said in the studio, you find out that the events leading to that pronouncement by the man is looking as if the people of Ndigbo in Lagos there were being thrown under the bus, and despite the security affronts that confronted them, the government said nothing. We saw the traditional ruler in Lekki area threatening in Iru land, threatening in Igbo people in a viral video that if they know they won't vote the APC, they shouldn't come out. And that nothing was done. He said that it was his kingdom and that he can do anything he wants. It is a lie. It is the Federal Republic of Nigeria. A traditional ruler has no sovereignty in Nigeria. The sovereignty resides with the states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And election is one of the highest duties, in fact, the highest duty of the citizens. Electing the people that will pioneer the affairs of the country is one of the highest, in fact, it's the highest civic responsibility of the citizen. And then an individual is denying a group of people that right. And so Lomo came also and made some statements tending to genocidal involvement, saying that people, if you come out, Yoruba, you kill you all. And when it was taken up, instead of picking MC Olomo up, just the way they have picked this man for making statements that are even less incendiary, they didn't pick MC Olomo up. I expected the police to pick him up, or DSS. Nobody picked him up. Rather, the people who were supposed to arrest MC Olomo were the ones making excuses for him. MC Olomo did not even defend himself. It was the police that was not defending him. Who you are? Was defending him. The PPRO said that what he said was a joke. If a genocidal statement made by MC Olomo was a joke, why was the statement made by this Igbo fellow, why was it not a joke? Whoever classified them as jokes. A man was threatened by somebody else, by the people who are supposed to protect him. Then the police who are supposed to protect him dismissed it as a joke. And the man was exasperated. Maybe that is why he now, so if the police cannot protect him, maybe, just maybe, you call on extraneous sources to do that.
All right,
so
this also...
why we are not absorbing him of what he did, since it is the law says it, but I think the case should have expedited hearing and then let it be done with. Well, I just think he's playing to the gallery, all those things.
All right, now thank you very much, Dr. Ambrose. There, but let's go back to 2015 now. The same Oba of Lagos at the time,
Yes.
Oba Rilwan Akiolu, made a statement. He said anyone that does not vote Ambody will be thrown into the lagoon. Do you remember
Yes,
that
sure.
statement? How is it that statements like this are made and they are dismissed? You know, as
Nothing happens.
freedom of speech. You know, where is the place of freedom of speech in the with regards to Chief Fred?
No, the truth is that when you add all these things together, and you also look at the very recent statement posted by the Department of State Security on its Twitter handle, where it was referring to the lawyers of Mazinam, of Emefiele,
Yes.
as IPOB,
Is
Biafran
he, is he
activist.
recruiting his brothers to
Yes.
come defend him?
You begin to conclude, most unfortunately, that a very serious body, which is supposed to be charged with internal security of Nigeria, has an Igbophobia, is becoming entrenched in its biases against the Igbos. Because the Ajagu, the man who is being tried now, whose cause we're discussing, because of those statements he made, I will invite so-and-so IPOB to come and protect me. The DSS whisked him off from Lagos to Abuja, back to Lagos, putting him under detention for several days unconstitutionally, and bringing him before the courts. Others who made the statements, like the speaker from Enugu just said, that gave rise to his defensive comments, are allowed to move around, and there is no charges or no even invitation, not even an invitation to come and explain. Then people begin to wonder, the Igbos, because this man is now being charged basically because of what he said. Is there a first-class or second-class tier legal justice delivery mechanism in Nigeria? And is the DSS that's supposed to protect internal security in Nigeria now using its enormous resources just to litigate or punish one ethnic group from not even making any serious comments? Because when you compare, the Igbos should not come out to vote, I'll kill them, which MC Lomo said, or the brandishing of sophisticated assault rifles by Asari Dokubo, and mentioning the Igbo specifically.
Oto.
Yes. You now begin and then you compare these two and what this man is being prosecuted for, in the Ajao State Chief is being prosecuted for. You clearly realize that something is amiss here. And that something that is amiss is that the DSS is taking a very unfortunate tribal and ethnic slant. And it's unfortunate because this is a group that should command respect, should command the how do I put it, recognition by Nigerians from all walks of life, and they are busy being portraying themselves like ethnic champions. We hope that this new administration will try to rework or rejig what the DSS is doing, because this group actually should be focused on discovering or monitoring the Boko Haram and the other extremist groups that are threats to Nigerians' existence. But we hear Boko Haram moving around in batches of 100, 200, committing ethnic genocide, ethnic cleansing, and nobody even discovers or knows where they're coming, where they are. Because those who should be doing that are busy pursuing those who are inviting IPOB to come and protect them against already made threats. The chief that is on screen now, when he made those comments, there was palpable threats on the streets of Lagos, and leaders who command large followership of thugs, like the Oba in Lekki area and the MC Olomo, had made definite threats against his own people. So they hopefully, if the DSS is watching, they should be able to clean up their acts, become more nationalistic and patriotic.
All right then. Well, this is where we'll drop anchor on this topic, but we'll be going into the other topic, and I would like you, gentlemen, to stay with us.
Yes,
Dr.
sure.
Ambrose Igboke would like you to stay with us, and also Barrister Eze Eluche, as we go into the second topic that we have for today. Now, still to come, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, excuse me, has rejected the approved 25,000 naira quarterly agutainment allowance from the federal government. How much will then be enough? Well, this is a conversation we'll be having when we come back. Stay with us.